This past week, I had one of the most disappointing days that I've had here on the river, probably in the last 5 years. And it wasn't because I didn't catch a few fish. My disappointment was I was out here on a day that the river provided me with the potential to catch a huge sack of fish, and I blew it. We'll talk about that a little later. Before we do, let's take a look at a few pictures, then we'll get right into the report. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta. This is the weekly fishing report for May 14th. We got a little bit of news and then we'll get right into the report. We've got the Bass Hole Team Tournament coming up May 17th this weekend out at Orwood Resort. It's the high roller, low roller format. $300 for the high roller entry, $150 for the low roller. If you go out there to watch the tournament weigh-in, get out there a little early and have lunch out at Orwood Resort. The food is great out there. It'll be a nice little trip, have some lunch, then watch the weigh-in. So that's the Bass Hole Team Tournament. If you have any questions, give Rob a call out at the Bass Hole. We also have the Modesto Ambassadors 53rd Annual Night Team Tournament Classic, and that's going to be June 6th out at Fleming Meadows at Don Pedro. We have their flyer up so you can get all the information off of that. That sounds like a fun tournament to fish. Also, Central Valley Tackle Swap coming up June 20th. That's going to be out at Whiskey Jack's in Modesto, 1000 Kansas Avenue. You can buy, sell, or trade. We've got their flyer up. That has the information. If you want to get a table, you can call and get a table and go out there. They're going to have bait makers and people buying, people selling, people trading. I was out at the last one. It was a great fun time to be out, and just a lot of fun to go out and check out what everybody's got, maybe pick up some stuff or get rid of some stuff. With that, let's get into the Clear Lake report. I talked to Nino Spella out at Clear Lake Outdoors, and Nino's reporting the fishing is, I'll say, fair, maybe even a fair minus. Not fair plus to good, but kind of a fair minus. It's post-spawn. Most of the fish are in post-spawn. Nino's saying the south end of the lake is definitely post-spawn. You can still go to the north end of the lake. There's a few fish on beds, but if you're a bed fisherman, because of the visibility, water visibility has been probably 3 or 4 feet, and bed fishing is tough. So what most people are doing are going up there and you know, just kind of junk fishing. If you know where the fish are, if you know where the fish are spawning, if you have history up there, you can throw plastics you know, in the flats and the places where they generally spawn and hope to pick one up. But going outside sight fishing for bed fish has been tough. Nino's reporting that there is a good AM topwater bite. You got to get out there early. There's a frog bite that's happening out there, and basically after that you're going to be throwing plastics. The other thing that I'm hearing from most people that have been up there is that there's just so much bait, threadfin shad. They're all over the place. So, you know, the bite with reaction baits has been very spotty. You have to be on the bait at the right time, because there's so much bait out there that the fish don't need to feed, you know, throughout the day. They can feed when they want. They can find the bait anytime, and if you happen to be there in a 10 or 15 minute feeding frenzy, you're going to catch fish. But with that being said, you're going to have to move around a lot to find those feeding fish, you know, when they're on the bite. So with that is the report from Clear Lake. If you have any questions, give them a call out at Clear Lake Outdoors. Let's move along to Don Pedro. I got some information from Aaron Jones out at Central Valley Bait and Tackle in Modesto, and he's saying it is continually slower than normal. So it's just fair. There's a lot of fry garters. Don Pedro is in post-spawn. A lot of fry garters are out, so there's a lot of guys that are throwing, you know, reaction baits that are catching decent numbers of fish, but they're all in the 1 to 2 pound class. Right now the big fish are big females are post spawn. They had a BBT tournament up there last week. I think it took 17 pounds for first place, so not a heavy weight, but the fish are biting. You can go up there and catch fish. You don't expect to get a heavy sack. The 3 baits that Aaron talked about was a topwater, some kind of walking bait or a popper, a Cinco, and an underspin. He also said, you know, because of this, especially if you're going out on the weekend, there's a lot of traffic out on the river. You want to get into some of those 5-mile-an-hour zones and get out of that traffic and get to where the fish aren't quite as disturbed to catch your fish. So that is the report from Aaron Jones out at Central Valley Bait and Tackle. That brings us to the California Delta, and what we're seeing here is the water starting to warm up. We've got anywhere from 8 to 10 feet of visibility in some areas. Some areas you go down south or farther up north, it's still 2 to 3 feet viz. Water temperatures are consistently rising. We're seeing about 66 to 68 degrees as a routine. If you get out here on a warm day and you're in the right place, you're going to even touch 70 degrees. I've seen 69 degree and 70 degree water in the shallows. So with that, the fishing has not been great, and we'll talk about the stripers a little bit, but we'll really concentrate on the largemouth bass. Fishing has not been great, and partially it's because of our moon phase and the tides, and things just haven't been lining up right. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the largemouth bass fishing. But as far as the striper fishing's going, still hot and heavy. A lot of the fish are up on the Sacramento River. A lot of the bank anglers have been sending in reports. They all seem to be doing pretty good off of the bank. There are a good number of fish in the Central Delta. This week I started throwing a rover a little bit as a topwater bait, and I started picking up stripers. I'm picking up the stripers anywhere where there is a submerged or a sunken island or a tule berm that has some good water movement on it. You get out around Frank's Track, find that water movement. There's been fish in there, and I picked one up that was, I think, 8, 9, maybe 10 pounds. Most of the fish I'm catching are right there around 18 to 20 inches. They're not big fish, but there are some good fish scattered with the schoolies, and they seem to be spread all over. I know guys that are going out of Paradise Point, they're still picking them up. These guys are throwing live bait, mostly bluegill, and bluegill are getting very easy to catch. We're going to talk about that in a minute when we talk about the largemouth bass. But the stripers are still out here. If you're a striper guy, go on out and have some fun, because they're going to be heading back to the ocean before too long. With that, let's get right into the largemouth bass, and we talked about the fishing being, I'm going to just say fair. It depends on when you're out there and what's going on. The topwater AM bite is starting to happen. I talked to Rob out at the Bass Hole, and he said that his best bite window has been from 4:30 to 7 a.m. After that, it gets tough, and that has been what everybody's saying in the reports. I talked to Joey Price, I've talked to Christian, I've been out and I've noticed the same thing. But if the one caveat to that is you want to be out and fish the change of light bite, it's a short bite window. But if you have a little breeze like we have today and there's a little ripple on the water, that bite window will extend out to 9, maybe even 10 o'clock, and you can still catch topwater fish. So that might be the highlight of what's going on here on the California Delta. With the warmer water temperatures, the fish seem to be getting more and more aggressive. With that being said, there's more of the 2 to 3, 3.5 pound fish in that mix than there are 6 and 7 pound fish. Those big females, I think a lot of them are post-spawn, and one of the things that everyone is saying when they're fishing topwater, whether it's a frog or a popper or whatever it is, they're getting these big blow-ups and the fish are missing baits, or they're hooking a fish and man, it rolls one time and it pops off. That is common this time of year for these big post-spawn females. They want to feed. They're starting to recover from spawn, but they're just not as aggressive, and they're not getting those baits in their mouth. They're coming up and swiping at them. They're getting hooked on the outside of the jaw, or they're just plain and simply missing the baits because they're still kind of, we'll call it half asleep in the post-spawn blues. Believe me, in a week or so, all of these fish, if you've been out there and you're getting these nice bites, they're going to hook themselves. You won't have to worry about catching them. You're going to get those fish hooked up, and you're going to have a much better chance of catching them. Now, with that being said, what's going on? Why is the fishing so tough after that morning activity? Well, I tend to think it's because we've had a very poor moon phase. We've had very poor solunar phases that match with tides. The tidal coefficients have been not very good, and that's coming off of that full moon. We are leading into the next, no moon. We are leading into the next full moon, and everything for the next couple of weeks should be on the increase. We got warmer water temperatures. We've got a little breeze. We're going to start getting this delta breeze, and that's a good thing as long as it's not over 15, 20 miles an hour. We're going to have better tidal coefficients, and everything's going to line up, and I suspect that we're going to have some really good fishing in the next couple of weeks. Again, let's talk about last week. There was a couple of tournaments. I don't know what tournament was, but I know Lorenzo was out. Lorenzo Rossetti won the tournament with, I think, 26 pounds. And geez, I think Jamon and his partner were out there, and they had 24, and I think Ken Ma had 22 with third place. And don't quote me on that, but I know it was 26, 24, 22. Those are great weights, but after that, things tail off real quick. I looked at the Thursday tournament results, you know, kind of underwhelming. The Monday results, I didn't see those, but I had heard they were a little bit underwhelming also. So after that topwater bite, it gets tough. Talk to Joey Price. Joey's been out. He's been using a lot of topwater frogs, walking baits, and poppers, things like that. He also says that he's been getting a very good morning bite up to about 10 a.m. He's really focusing on areas where there's a bunch of bluegill spawning, and there are bluegill all over. They're spawning in the old bass beds. They're spawning in their own beds. It's pretty easy to go out and catch a few bluegill if you want to catch a few of those and maybe use them for bait for stripers. But the fish that are done spawning, those big females, Joey's feeling like they're holding very close to those areas where the bluegill are spawning, because that's what they're coming up and they're feeding on. Joey's using a lot of bluegill patterns when he's fishing these topwaters, and he's gonna when he starts fishing his jigs and his underspins and maybe crankbaits and things like that, I guarantee you Joey's gonna have a bluegill color on it, and you might be advised to do the same. I'll put Joey's number up there if you want to give Joey Price a call to get up and do a little, maybe for the next couple weeks you might be able to do a multi-species trip or do a summertime bass fishing trip. Christian's been out. He's been putting in some big fish in the boat, but I talked to Christian, after that topwater bite dissipates, he's got to get down. He's been worm fishing. He's been getting fish up to 6 pounds, and Christian is out on the river right now. If you're looking to go out and maybe catch your personal best, I would say give Christian a call. I'll put his number up there, and he'll get you out there, and I guarantee you he'll put you on some big fish, whether they bite or not right now. Who knows? But remember, the next couple weeks is going to be a key time here, I think, on the Delta, and I think some things are really going to start happening. Let's talk about what happened to me this week. I told you I had my most disappointing day of the the last 5 years. I got out. I was out fishing one day. Did okay, caught a few fish, caught some fish up to about 3 pounds, but my son Nathan and we found some fish, and we found some big fish. Tide was bottomed out, not the right time to be fishing for them. I decided I'd go out the next day. I wanted to get out early. The fish were in shallow water. I knew I had to be very stealth, but knowing where these fish were and knowing where I had to set the boat up and what the program was going to be, I had high hopes. I guess I didn't get a good night's sleep or something. Didn't wake up early, got out about half an hour late, didn't really get much of a topwater bite. And let's just go over the things that went wrong for me and what I learned from it, and then we'll talk about what I should have done to maybe catch the fish. So I get backlashes now and then like everyone else, but in this particular day I had two of the most god-awful backlashes for some reason. I'm going to blame it on my son for readjusting the settings on my reels. They were the kind of backlashes that you look at it and say, this isn't going to happen today on the boat. You put it down under deck and go home and fix it. Two of those in one day. I usually get maybe one of those a year. My second cast of the day, as I pulled up on a prime spot, and I might have this on video. If I do, I'll probably play it at some time or another just as a comedy of errors. I threw a big walking bait out, went right in the prime place. Before I started retrieving it, I heard my camera go off. I said, you know what, I bet my camera went off. I better check that. I make sure it's on because I'm going to catch a big fish in here. Set my rod down, went back to the camera. This is only a couple of seconds. Okay, maybe it was 10 or 15 seconds. As I'm looking at my camera, I hear the distinct noise of a rod going over the gunnel and landing in the water. I turned around, my rod was taking off. I said, oh, geez, I knew this was going to happen. The bait was sitting out there, it got picked up by big fish. Anyhow, ran up to the bow. I think I got another rod in my hand. I picked up my rod. I got the rod out. The fish was still on the rod. It was tugging, and this was a big fish. Lift the rod up to see where that fish was. It had swam under the boat. And I knew I had to adjust my trolling motor and get everything, repositioned. Well, guess what? It wasn't a fish. I let my line get into the trolling motor. My trolling motor was in spot lock. It had sucked about 20 feet of line up in there. That's how I started my day. I had to cut all that off, put that rod under the deck. The disappointment of just doing that, being stupid, hurt. It hurt me. So this is, and at that point, this is the moral of the story. I got PO'd, and if you were out here on that day and you heard some foul language, roaring over the Delta, it was probably me, and I apologize that, especially if you had small kids on the boat. But that put me in a bad mood, and after that, it was just a comedy of errors for me the whole day, and it was because of the way I started. I kind of reevaluated what I was doing, and I started back to fishing, and within about 5 minutes I had a big blow up. Is a big fish, and I lost that fish. I don't know if it didn't suck it in. I was using a rover. I felt it for a second. Minute it turned its head. The fish came off, and at that point, that's what ruined my day, because I know that I have been getting 1 or 2 chances like that per day, and I just blew one. And that really got me to off to the races. I felt like I needed to fish a little faster. I had to cover some more water. I got all off a kilter, and I let my mental state rule the rest of my day. Don't do that. You can't get upset out here. I'm not against cursing. If you have a problem, string them out for a minute or so, and then sit down and readjust yourself. Get back in the game. And I didn't get back in the game. And what was so frustrating was everybody says these big fish are all 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds. I don't know how big the fish were. They were all big fish. I had the potential of maybe putting a 25-pound bag in the boat, and that doesn't happen very often for me out here. And I'm talking about 25 pounds in maybe 45 minutes. So with that, get out here early. Poppers were working, bubble walkers were working. You just had to have it on out in the water. Fish it slow. If you start fishing them too fast, things will deteriorate. That's my suggestion for next week. If you are getting out and you're going to fish a full day, worms are definitely going to be a player. You want to get the stuff as close to either surface vegetation or tules or wood, whatever you're fishing, it's got to be close to cover. There is a bite that is starting to happen more and more, and that's the punch bite. Remember, the fish that were around the spawning areas, as the water warms up and you're fishing these areas that are tight to cover, they're going to start going under the mats, and punching is going to get better and better as it goes. The worm fishing technique that I'm using on the outside of this stuff is going to start deteriorating, and you're going to have to get farther inside where the shade is very soon. So you guys that are punching, think about that. There's going to be some good punch water or good punch fishing to be had very shortly. Good frog fishing, although the frog fishing has been kind of sporadic. A lot of guys are saying that they're losing a lot of fish with the frogs. They're just not ingesting them like they should be right now. What else can you use out here? Obviously chatterbaits. There's a spinnerbait bite going. Few people are using crankbaits. Go out there, do what you can do, and fish through the day, and don't get upset if you have a tough time or a tough fish loss, or just don't get upset. I get upset talking about it. Anyhow, I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you watch next week. I'm going to have some interesting, some big news for In Deep on the Delta on next week's report. Thanks a lot. See you guys on the river. Good luck. Stay safe.